way to start a video, right? Well, folks, the last couple of weeks have been pretty hectic for me. My wife just had a birthday Saturday, and for the past month we've been working on getting things ready for the birthday party that we had here at our house. This is Tuesday, and I'm still trying to recoup from that party. It was a lot of fun. Had a lot of good people here. Had two bands here, some good food, some good drink, and it was a good time. I can't tell you how old my wife is, but let's just say she's 25, okay? And she's not 25. But I'm currently enjoying my left knee is really, the last few days has really gone sour on me, and it's extremely painful. So if you see me wince, it's because I'm a puss, okay? But anyhow, what today's video is about is 1,200 kilometer evaluation of my Honda CT125 100 Cub. Now that they're hitting the US soil and the dealers are trying to rip everybody off by adding outrageous $600 paperwork charges to the invoice, I thought I'd let y'all know what I think of the bike and what I've done to it to improve the bike, because it is not perfect. And the big complaint on this bike that I have is it just does not have enough power in that little 124cc 8 horsepower engine. Just does not have enough power, especially for the type of riding I do around here. Now, there's another guy on YouTube, goes by, his channel name is Ride with Warro, W-A-R-R-O, and he has one identical to what I have, and he lives fairly close to some pretty gnarly looking dirt roads and some pretty steep hills and stuff like that. He takes it out there. He's been working, as I have, to try and optimize the best that his bike can do for him. And I agree with what he's come up with on the gearing on it, just simply because he lives close enough to where he goes out and rides in the dirt that the road part of it does not hamper him. My problem here is where I want to go ride to is 30-40 kilometers away. So I've got a lot of highway riding to do. And the guys I go riding with all have much bigger machines than I have, which go much faster than this does. I'm not complaining that the Honda's not fast enough. It's plenty fast enough for me. It's just not fast enough to keep up with them on the highway. To make it to where it's more likely to stay close enough to them that I can see them, I have to run the stock gearing on the countershaft and on the rear wheel. That'll give me high enough speeds without revving the engine up really, really high to keep these guys in sight. The bad thing about that is when I get into the high mountain roads, then the stock gearing on it will not pull all the mountain roads in second gear, and it makes me get down into first gear. And to keep my momentum going, I need to be up really high on the revs, and I don't like doing that. I'd rather be mid-range on the revs and still be able to pull in second gear. Now, I've accomplished that by going to the 13-tooth countershaft sprocket, but again, that does throw off your speedometer reading, which is not real accurate, but it's closer if you run the stock gearing, because the reading comes off of the counter shaft on the engine. So if I go to the 13-tooth counter shaft sprocket, then I suffer on the 20 kilometers of highway to get to where we're going, but I have a much easier time riding in the mountains, and can pull. I have yet to find one of the mountain roads that I cannot pull in second gear with the 13-tooth sprocket on it, and there's some pretty steep mountain roads, and they're not the best conditioned mountain roads, so they've got chunk holes in them and dirt and sand and stuff like that on some of the corners, and we've even run into a section where a truck had gone through there and was spilling hydraulic fluid on the road. So I'm gonna evaluate this bike for what I've done with it, and all the riding I've done on it. You know, of course, it's 4-speed automatic clutch, and what that means by automatic clutch is when you push down on the shifter to put it into gear, you'll hear a clunk. It clunks when it goes into gear, but it's normal. All of them that I've seen and heard have done the same thing, but it will not take off until you raise the RPM up. However, if you want to be able to raise your RPM up while you're riding, all you've got to do is just depress the shift lever just a little bit, and it'll activate the clutch part on this, and you can get your revs up, and then just take your foot off of the lever, and it stays in the same gear that you were in, but it raises your RPMs up. It's kind of like fanning a clutch on a bike with a clutch. Once you're moving, in other words, you're in second, third, or fourth gear, it is a rotational shift pattern. So if you're parked, it'll go from first gear, from neutral to first, to second, to third, to fourth, and then back to neutral. Once you're rolling with it and moving, it'll go from first to second to third to fourth, but will not go into neutral from fourth gear. As soon as you stop, then you can go on into neutral with it. So that's a nice little safety item that it does have on it. Some of the accessories that I put on my bike is I have a headache rack for the headlight, and this is it right here, and then I have a rack on top of that I can put small stuffs on. I keep a couple of little bags here for when I go to the market and stuff like that. The crossbar pad, or for the handlebars, I got from the Cub House here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, as well as these two racks. The center rack that goes over the down tube I got from the Cub House. Now, the exhaust system that I have on here, I got, it's a Diablo brand made by a company called K-Speed, and there's an online company here in Thailand. It's called Shopee. I'll put I'll mention all this stuff down in the description for this video down below, so you guys can look it up on the internet. But that's where I've got most of the accessories I've got, is off of that online shopping called Shopee, S-H-O-P-E-E. And I took the rack that was on the back of it, which hung out to like here and went back to like here and weighed 40 million tons, and I bought this rack right here, which also came from, is a Diablo brand that came from K-Speed. Now, to try and optimize my power on this bike, I went ahead and put an air cleaner in here that's very similar to a K&N. And I believe it's called a KPS, and then the air cone, or the cone on the back of it, to allow the air, instead of the tube that came up here and attached to the back rack, I have this cone on here, and it is a Diablo K-Speed manufactured item also. For those of you wondering where the USB charger is on this, or where it goes, this right here is the spot where there's a little rubber plug that you pop out from the backside, and right there is where your USB charger goes, right in between your speedometer and your ignition key, just to the left of it. So that's another accessory I put on. Elsewise, folks, I've just been playing with countershaft sprockets to try and optimize the best conditions for what I ride in. The tires that are on it were really good on pavement. They're not bad on dry dirt, not worth a crap on muddy conditions and watery, wet creek bottom conditions. You just have no traction in that kind of stuff. So if you're going to ride a bunch of that, I would strongly suggest getting some kind of a trials type tire, or a knob if you're not going to be doing much pavement riding. But the tires work really good on pavement, so I'm going to keep these on until I wear them out, and then probably go to a little bit more aggressive tire on here. When I went to the 13 tooth sprocket, even with the stock exhaust and air cleaner on it, it pulls really good and hard with the 13 tooth on it. You've got first, second, third, and fourth gear actually feel crisp when you shift into them and pull out to where, with the 14 tooth, it's not near as crisp of a movement. And then with the 15 tooth sprocket on there, it's just super smooth, but it will not pull fourth gear or the hoot. It just hasn't got the guts to pull fourth gear really. But it's really great if all you're going to do is in-town riding, and first, second, third gear, probably all you would ride on. Man, I'll tell you, the 15 tooth sprocket would be the ideal setup for that, and your fuel economy should just go through the roof. I'll give you the fuel economy that I've gotten with this. I haven't done long enough riding with the 15 tooth sprocket on it to get a reading, but with the 14 tooth, I got 65 kilometers per liter with it. Everything here is sold in liters, and the mileages are all in kilometers, so convert them if you want to know what it is for the US. With the 13, I got it did affect the fuel economy with the bike being revving up higher than what it would have with the 14, and I got 55 kilometers per liter with that. So fuel economy is fantastic with this little bike. It just needs more power, and I can't stress that enough. And at the I can order items for this bike once a month usually, and I allot a certain amount of money to do that. And the day before we made the order to get stuff like the pipe and the air filter and that, the big bore kit that I was going to get, they sold the last one. Well, I just found out today that they've got more of them available, so we're going to go ahead and order one today. And once that gets in, we'll go ahead and have that put on, and then we're going to be doing all kinds of new evaluations on this bike, because we're gonna pump the ponies up 1.5 horse higher, and the torque's going to be 1.9 newton meters higher, and that's a big improvement off of stock, and it should make things a whole lot different for the way I'm going to ride it where I ride. So some of you might be interested in something like that. The seat on it is extremely comfortable. It's not the softest in the world, but I've gone on a couple 100-kilometer rides with this thing, and I don't have monkey butt when I get back home, so that's pretty good. The handlebars are positioned really good. They set up nice and tall. Kind of reminds me of heck, back when these bikes were popular back in the 70s. Kind of reminds me of some of the bikes from back in there on the handlebars, but all the controls on it are good quality controls. I've got no problems with any of that stuff. It's got LED turn signals, LED headlight and tail light on it, and brake light, so that's all good. Of course, it's got the ABS disc brake on the front, but no ABS on the back, but it does have a disc brake, and the brakes have never let me down. And I've been coming off of some pretty high and pretty steep mountain roads and doing a lot of braking. I've never had any trouble with it, so can't complain on that. The mirrors on this have excellent vision. Maybe if the handlebars were just a little bit wider, the mirrors wouldn't catch my shoulders. It's not that I'm a big guy or anything like that, it's just they don't stick out past the end of the handlebars. So if the handlebars are a little wider, maybe they'd be a little bit better, but they're not bad. And as you ride with the bike, it's smooth. It has a very little bit of vibration when you get really high up in the RPM range on it, but nothing to complain about. I've had bikes that were a lot worse, a couple of Harleys, but the bike is an excellent bike. The fun factor on this thing is just through the roof, but man, it needs more power. Honda should have put a 175 four-stroke in here, and I don't think there'd be anybody complaining about dual range transmissions or not enough power on the trails or anything like that. There would be no complaints on the power of this bike if they'd have just put a 175 in there. So my suggestion to Honda is, and see, they don't pay me or give me anything to do these evaluations. All this is coming out of my pocketbook. My suggestion would, they need to make two models of this. One with the 125, which is great for just putting around and enjoying life on a bike, and then one with 175cc engine on it, adjustable suspension on it. You have absolutely no adjustment on the shocks or the front forks. And I will be doing some suspension work. We're going to go ahead and go with the K-Speed Diablo rear shocks on the back of it, and I believe I'm going to buy the YSS front fork kit for it and put that on it. The bike does have a tendency, when you get into the really rough if you've ever watched some of my earlier videos, you noticed that occasionally my GoPro would just shut off. Well, the son of a bitch just did it again. Now, not that I can remember all the stuff I said after it shut off, but I know I was right in the middle of the suspension complaints or problems with the bike. The problem is they have no adjustment front or rear on the suspension on. You can supposedly adjust the spring rate on the back shocks, but I haven't been able to see anything that I could actually adjust back there, and there are no adjustments on the front. But anyhow, I plan on putting a set of K-Speed Diablos rear shocks on it, and they're fully adjustable. Should improve the back a little bit, but the big problem was with the front. When you go over really choppy stuff and the front end unloads the weight off of the shocks, you'll get a clunking noise that happens when the shock tops out. In other words, it fully extends. Back in the early 80s, my 82 and 83 Husqvarnas both had that problem, and it was an internal top out washer that caused it, and it was no problem to get the correct fix for it, but you had to go through the expense of having it taken care of. I don't do internal suspension mods because it's something that you need certain tools for and all this stuff, and there's no way I'm gonna get that heavy into it. So I don't do that. But Ride with Warro down in Australia has purchased a set of YSS rear shocks, the YSS Black Series rear shocks, and the YSS Black Series fork kit for the front forks on this, and he's going to have those installed here fairly soon, and I'm really interested to see what happens on that. So you guys make sure you check his channel out and check out his modifications that he's done to that bike. Should be interesting. So anyhow, that's really gonna be about it for today on the video. You know, I really enjoy this bike, but it's got its downfalls, but it's nothing that you can't be overcome. The lack of power in certain areas is either live with it or go big, you know. So I'm gonna put a big bore kit in it, and we'll see what it does. Personally, and I love the bike. It is, the fun factor on this thing is through the roof. So hope you all enjoyed this video, and the next time I do a video, I'm going to be riding this thing either with a bad leg or without a bad leg. I'm going to get this thing straightened out. So folks, talk to y'all later.